is a guide for action and outcome of the policy process. The government adopts or pursues policy as a determined measure. The governing body develops and enforces guidelines to control and limit actions in achieving long-term goals. This study focused on the chaebol policy that implemented by South Korea to address their economic crisis, particularly in the industrial sphere. Chaebol is a family-owned conglomerate firm in South Korea aiming to generate profits from their main business. Chaebol's expansion dissuaded small and medium-sized enterprises from entering the major sector. The Korean government financially supports significant Korean firms, particularly Chaebol's, during the development. Chaebol's transition to a more substantial, intricate and technologically advanced sector is fundamental to South Korea's economic progress. Fiscal policy stimulates demand through government spending on infrastructure, education, and healthcare. Tax policies affect disposable income and business investment. Monetary policy influences borrowing costs and consumer spending, impacting GDP. Trade policies reduce tariff and encourage export, boosting GDP. Labor and employment policies like minimum wage laws and education investments increase disposable incomes and workforce productivity. Industrial policies supporting R&D or subsidize key industries spur innovation and technological progress. Regulatory policies foster entrepreneurship and create long-term economic benefits. The correct combination of policies can boost economic activity, increase productivity, and promote innovation, thereby promoting GDP growth. Government spending boosts economy and accelerates GDP growth. Infrastructure investments increase job creation and productivity, lowering businesses' costs and enhancing efficiency. Education and healthcare investment improve workforce skill set and well-being, contributing to long-term economic growth. Tax policy influence GDP growth by promoting consumption and reducing corporate tax. Lower tax can boost consumer disposable income and businesses' investment, while higher tax can slow economic growth. A balance must be maintained between government revenue and private sector activity. Central banks can modify interest rates to stimulate spending and investment, leading to higher economic output and GDP growth. Higher interest rates can reduce borrowing costs, potentially slowing economic growth. Increasing the money supply through instruments like quantitative easing can also promote economic growth. Quantitative easing involves buying government securities to provide liquidity into the economy. Expansion of the money supply can cut interest rates, promote investment and expenditure, and boost the GDP. However, excessive or rapid expansion can lead to inflation, eroding the value of money and destabilizing the economy. Free Trade Agreement (FTA) increase GDP by increasing export and resource allocation. Protectionist measures like tariff and quotas can temporarily boost domestic output but often result in inefficiency. Policies promoting industries to increase export, such as tax break, subsidized and government-backed export financing, raise demand for domestic goods and services abroad, thereby increasing GDP. Export policies encourage businesses to manufacturing for global markets, boosting industrial output, creating jobs, and raising national income. These incentives promote economic diversity by expanding industries that may not be competitive domestically but become more viable internationally. Promoting exports balance trade deficits and increase the inflow of foreign currency, supporting overall economic growth. Effective policies increase productivity, stimulate investment and expenditure, and foster innovation. A balanced approach between short-term economic stimulation and long-term structural change is required for sustained GDP growth.
Slide 9, I would like to talk about the case study that we mentioned in our report. The case study focusing on economic, how the South Korea made development from 1950 to 2020. So it starts from the 1950s. South Korea was one of the poorest countries. However, through industrialization and aggressive export travel strategy led by the President Park Chung-hee in the 1960s, the nation saw rapid economic growth. The government supported large families owned by conglomerates known as chaebols, such as Samsung, Hyundai, and Sky Hynix, which become dominant players in industrial like steel, automobiles, and shipbuilding with a strong leadership in high-tech sectors. South Korea exports now accounts for over 40% of its GDP. Balanced trade ties with both the US and China. South Korea is also diversifying within Asia, forming a partnership like the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement with India in 2020. The Korean New Deal was introduced emphasizing the green energy, digitalization, and sustainable growth, aiming to solidify Korea's global influence and economic reform. When we talk about chaebols, under the president of Park Chung-hee, 1960, South Korea modeled the chaebol system of the Japanese Korea to drive rapid economic growth while modifying it to keep government influence over this large family-owned conglomerates like Samsung, Hyundai, and LG. The government supports chaebols family with a subsidies, loan, and easy regulations, enabling them to grow and compete internationally. These strong ties between the government and chaebol family were key to South Korea's economic policy. Today, South Korea leads in high-tech sectors such as electronics and semiconductors, and the Korean New Deal aims to ensure sustainable growth through digitalization and green energy amid challenge from its aging population and complex geopolitical position between the US and China. 1970s heavy and chemical industry drive. This policy, called chaebols. In the 1970s, the government directed more attention into heavy industries such as shipbuilding, biometric chemicals, and steel, and encouraged chaebols to expand into these fields. The goal of this policy was to make South Korea an industrial economy with a rapid growth. GDP growth during this period averaged around 8 to 10% per year. In 1980, they call it continued growth and financial liberalization. Chaebol-led expansion continues in 1980, but with a rise in financial liberalization that made it easier to access global capital markets, but also raised questions about how this business were contracting economic power. South Korea GDP growth remained strong in 1980, averaging about 6 to 8 annually. In 1990s, financial crisis happened in chaebol reform. In 1997, Asian financial crisis feed flows in a chaebol structure, resulting in financial mismanagement and excessive reliance on debt. The government responds by enacting changes to enhance corporate governance and lessen the onus of economic power. The changes helped stabilize the economy over time, even if the GDP growth slowed after the crisis to about 3 to 4% annually. Chaebols in a globalized economy. In 2000, with Samsung, Hyundai, and LG growing their global presence, especially in the technology and automotive sectors, chaebols continued to propel South Korea's export-focused economy. During 2000, South Korea experienced relatively steady GDP growth, averaging about 4 per year.
Hello everyone, thanks for staying with us, and thanks for the previous presenter. So now I hope you understand what is chaebol. and why we choose chaebol as our case study. In this part, we'll be discussing how chaebol have played a vital role in shaping the country's economy and is pioneering of economic growth. Chaebol like Samsung, Hyundai, LG not only transformed South Korea from a war-torn nation in 1950 to one of the world's leading economy, but they continue to influence nation's GDP and economic trajectory. Let's explore how this powerful corporation giving strong impact on South Korea up until now. Firstly, the impact is in industrialization and GDP growth. In 1960 and 1970, South Korea adopted exporter-oriented industrialization strategy. The government worked closely with chaebol to rapidly develop key such as manufacturing, electronic, automobile, and shipbuilding. Chaebol such as Samsung became essential to South Korea and industrial backbone in this country. Their ability to scale production and allow South Korea to become major exporter on the global stage and driving GDP growth. This industrial boom contributed significantly to the national GDP. Especially during 1970 and 80, the focus on capital investor sector, bolstered by the chaebol, fueled high GDP growth rate. Now, South Korea stands ranking among the world top exporter. For example, you can see the graph show that in GDP per capita compared to Malaysia since 1960 until now. The second impact, in the recent year, chaebol have been a forefront technological innovation. South Korea GDP has grown continue to benefit from chaebol technology prowess. Their emphasis on research and development R&D has allowed South Korea to stay competitive in high-tech manufacturing, particularly in sectors like consumer electronic and automobile. They're able to compete with other top-tier countries. For example, in the first quarter in 2024, Samsung surpassed Apple as the world top smartphone provider. Samsung market share was 20% compared to Apple 70%. So, it shows that Samsung able to compete with other top brands around the world. Third is capital investment and employment. Chaebol have attracted significant foreign investment. Their scale and reach into global market have integrated South Korea further into the global economy, ensuring sustained economic growth. Because of that, creating vast employment opportunities and attracting foreign direct investment automatically help an employment issue. But there are negative impact on the country. Modern power and economic structure. Despite their economic success, chaebol have been criticized for their monopolized practice. This practice has created concentration of wealth and power in the hands of few families, which led to the significant economic challenge. While chaebol have been integral to South Korea's economic rise, their dominance has led to concern over competitive. Their control over key industry has sometimes resulted in poor and stagnant innovation in other parts of the economy. Furthermore, the chaebol reliance on debt and fund rapid expansion had over leverage, which came to head during 1997 Asian financial crisis. This crisis revealed the vulnerabilities in the chaebol-led growth model, caused a temporary slowdown in economic expansion during the financial crisis.
Limitation and challenges of chaebols. Chaebols, a significant part of South Korea's economy, have been criticized for their concentration of power and money in a few families. The government has implemented reforms to reduce chaebols, guide influence and improve corporate governance, such as increasing transparency in ownership structures and encouraging independent boards. However, chaebols continue to play a significant role in technology and manufacturing sectors, with global leaders like Samsung and Hyundai. As South Korea transitions towards a service-oriented economy, chaebols are diversifying into new sectors like biotechnology and renewable energy, ensuring their continued GDP growth. First is market concentration. The concentration of market power among South Korea's chaebols, such as Samsung and Hyundai, significantly impact competition and the economy. These large corporations contribute significantly to the nation's industrial production and GDP. But their hegemony may hinder competition and the expansion of small and medium-sized businesses. Limited access to funds. Technology and market reach makes it difficult for SMEs to compete with chaebols, creating an uneven playing field. The concentrated power of these conglomerates can lead to policy biases favoring the largest players, potentially limiting economic dynamism and leading to the market inefficiencies. This issue was highlighted during the 1987 Asian financial crisis, inefficiency and corruption. The close relationship between South Korea's chaebols and the government has raised concern about corruption, inefficiency, and favoritism. These ties often result in preferential treatment in government contracts, such as subsidies and regulatory monitoring, which can stifle market competition and impair economic efficiency. This is particularly problematic when chaebols are involved in large public projects or when government policies favor over SMEs. The 2016 corruption scandal, which led to President Park Geun-hye's impeachment, highlighted the level of chaebols' influence in South Korean politics. The over-reliance on these big corporations reduce incentive for innovation and often prioritize short-term political gains over long-term national welfare. This long-standing relationship remained a central topic of discussion in South Korea about corporate governance and economic reform. The last point is economic vulnerability. South Korea's economy is heavily reliant on a few powerful conglomerates or chaebols such as Samsung, Hyundai, and SK Group, which account for a significant portion of its industrial production, exports, and GDP. These chaebol financial difficulties can significantly impact smaller companies, the labor market for government income, and the conglomerate itself. The 1997 Asian financial crisis, exemplified by the financial troubles of Daewoo and Hyundai, triggered a domino effect that severely affected the broader economy. The over-reliance on big businesses has led to inefficiency and discourage diversification and innovation outside of the main industry controlled by chaebols. This lack of economic diversification makes the country more prone to economic stagnation or rapid downturns if global market conditions shift unfavorably of these conglomerates.
Mr. Asman for very detailed explanation. So, can we conclude that though issue with their market concentration, corruption, economic vulnerability in the South Korea economy, the chaebol have played a significant role in driving South Korea GDP growth, especially in the manufacturing and export sector. Their close relationship with the government and their ability to scale businesses quickly allow South Korea to become a global economic player. They need to overcome the issue with a proper solution and believe they're taking steps toward that. So, can Malaysia adopt the same method? Or we already done that? I'll leave it to you to answer that question. Thank you.